Oral questions. The member for Oakville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have a question for the Chair of Management Board. The Chair of Management Board recently sent a letter to all of the provincial court judges, a letter which was signed by the Premier, along with their latest pay packet. Now, the letter addresses the provincial court judges as civil servants, and it reminds them of their duty, and I quote, to directly implement government programs. And my question to the minister is, does she and this government not yet understand that our judges are not civil servants, and that they are not only independent of the executive branch, but they must also be seen to be independent of the executive branch?
Minister?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, a letter was sent out by the Premier to all those receiving checks from the government services payment system. The letter was enclosed to everyone receiving those checks, and as provincial judges receive their checks through that process, they receive the letter along with everyone else.
Great management.
Supplementary.
Great management.
By way of supplementary, Mr. Speaker, I might just quote further from the letter, which says as follows: your accomplishments should be recognized and rewarded. To do this, we must identify the best ways to encourage those who consistently meet their objectives and provide exceptional service to the people of Ontario. Of course, poor performance must also be directly addressed. My question, Mr. Speaker, is what programs and what methods of assessment does this government have in mind for judging the judges on their work? Is she suggesting that perhaps there should be a quota system for guilty findings by these judges?
Minister?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. The answer to the question is that the letter was sent out, as I stated, to everyone receiving checks from the government payroll systems. The judges received theirs. It was a recognition by this government of the very professional and good service that we've received from the very professional and good civil servants. However, as you know, whenever mass mailings are undertaken and letters are distributed in that manner, inadvertently some are sent to the judges, and I will ensure that in the future that does not occur.
Final supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, by way of supplementary,
We got a terrific answer. We just saw you can't govern again.
the real question is, Mr. Speaker, to the minister.
Order. Order.
The real question to the minister is, does she really feel that this kind of propaganda to civil servants, be they judges or otherwise, at taxpayers' expense, is appropriate in these circumstances?
Mr. Speaker, I think it's very appropriate for the government to communicate with those people serving the government as employees. Let me just respond to the member in this way.
Don't you like the civil service?
I receive much mail on a personal basis, some even from the Tory party soliciting funds.
That's right.
If they were to check their list, they might find that perhaps errors were made in their mailing and sending it to a good Liberal member such as myself. These things do happen occasionally. I will ensure they do not happen in the future.
New question? The member for Leith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is for the Minister of Consumer and Commercial Relations. According to the press today, the Minister has announced another study, this time on joyriding on elevators. Mr. Speaker, problems with elevators have been rampant for at least 1/2 a year and have included 2 teenage deaths. I'll send a chronology over to remind the members on that side of the House. Mr. Speaker, you should be embarrassed. Remo, you've got a lot of things to be embarrassed about. Mr. Speaker, will the minister tell this House why it has taken him so long to react to this urgent situation?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the member raises a very serious problem, and a problem that we are very concerned and very active in trying to resolve. You should know that it is not something that is flippant. It's a very serious problem, and the more you talk about it, the more you add to the problem. And it's a serious problem in that we have talked to professionals, and we have a situation where elevators are not meant to be ridden on at the top of the cabs. Notwithstanding that, some unfortunate youngsters are doing it. We are trying to resolve the problem. I've got groups looking at it, and I can tell you that I am very concerned about it, and we're addressing the problem.
Supplementary?
That's astounding, Mr. Speaker, that if we talk about it, why is the minister's face in the paper this morning talking about it? The minister was faster than a speeding bullet in getting his name on all the elevators across this province. We all know that. That says something about his priorities.
Don't deal with any problems, though, Marty.
But
Order! 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 Again, I'll say to the members, you're wasting your own time. Supplementary?
Mr. Speaker, by way of supplementary, will the minister agree, I guess he won't, but I'm going to ask him anyway, will he agree that rather than waiting for the results of this study that he's initiated, that he should embark immediately on a hard-hitting public awareness campaign aimed at teenagers, telling them there is no joy in joyriding?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to first of all point out to the member that he had the honor of being the shortest-lived Minister of Consumer and Commercial Relations for a period of less than a month, and his name appears on several elevators around the province.
He was working night. Stuck your foot in it that time, Bobby.
Order!
How did you catch the elevator?
Order! 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 I might remind all members we might hear the questions faster and get to the replies faster without too much editorial comment. Mr. Minister?
Mr. Speaker, it is a very serious problem, and without trying to be too flippant, it requires a vast solution and not a half-vast solution.
Final supplementary, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the ministry has been approached several times, starting in early March, by the makers of an anti-tampering device for elevators. Has the minister met with these people, and if not, why not?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, the officials of the Technical Services Branch of my ministry have been meeting on this problem constantly, and we are trying to come up with a solution that works. And it's a very difficult solution because you have to understand that any solution that might solve that problem may create more problems than it solves. People go into those elevators and have to get out in emergencies. People have to service them. It is a very difficult problem that we are trying to resolve.
New question? The member for York South?
Mr. Speaker, I have a question for the absence of the Premier, a question for the Minister of Energy. The minister was one of the members of this legislature who in 1980 signed a report entitled The Safety of Ontario's Nuclear Reactors. Recommendation 10 of that report states, and I quote, "The AECB should commission a study to analyze the likelihood and consequences of a catastrophic accident in a CANDU reactor. The study should be directed by recognized experts outside the AECB, AECL, and Ontario Hydro. It should be funded by a special grant from the federal government. If this study is not commissioned by July the 31st, 1980, the province of Ontario should ensure that it is undertaken." That's the end of recommendation 10. Mr. Speaker, it's our understanding as a result of conversations with AECB that this specific study, as requested by the legislature of the province of Ontario, has not in fact been undertaken. Other studies have. A specific study of this nature has not. I'd like to ask the minister, now that he is the Minister of Energy,
Question.
is it his view that such a study would be worthwhile, and if so, would he see that it is undertaken by the provincial government of this province?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I certainly did attend to and was on that committee during most of its tenure. And those kind of recommendations that were being put forward, of course, were put forward to the former government. I'm not suggesting that they didn't do anything about it, but it appears obvious that didn't happen. In view of the circumstance that has everyone in the world just kind of standing still, I certainly am willing to take into account any kind of suggestion from this legislature, from all sides, as to what we should be doing in the province of Ontario, the province that has the largest involvement of CANDU reactors in Canada. I suppose in speaking to the leader of the third party and reflecting on that kind of a commitment that was made that far back, that certainly would be taken into account as I examine all of the ramifications of this tragedy in the next few days. I don't think you would expect me to just immediately give you a yes or no answer, but I hope I can convince you that those things that need to be done will be done.
Supplementary?
Mr. Speaker, further to that, and it's difficult to ask the Minister of Energy, perhaps if he can't answer it, he could redirect it to the Solicitor General. I was going to address all these questions to the Premier, and in the absence of the Premier, I can't, but I'll address the question through you, Mr. Speaker, to the Minister and ask him if he feels he can't answer, if he could redirect. It is our understanding, and we stand to be corrected if we are not right, that the province of Ontario has a draft nuclear emergency plan, of which I have a copy dated April 1985, for Pickering, but it is our understanding that there is no such plan for the Bruce area, and that the plan for Pickering is in fact still only in the draft stage, and that in fact it does not provide any procedures directly for alerting the public, and that neither in the Bruce area nor in the Pickering area are there in fact plans in place today with respect to the alerting of the public. I'd like to ask the Minister, is he aware of the progress being made in the development of such plans, and can he tell us, for the sake of those citizens who have been asking, I think all of us in public life, what measures are in place in the province of Ontario, what is being done with respect to those living in the vicinity of these plants?
Yes, I think I very properly answered the first part of your question, but I would redirect to the Solicitor General, who has that responsibility.
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, there was, as you know, an old plan in 1979 and had many shortcomings, and so it was revised in late 85. That has gone through the Cabinet Committee on Emergency Planning. It has also been before Cabinet and is just waiting and has been received and accepted in principle by Cabinet and will be promulgated through an order in Council in the very, very near future. It does take into account a general emergency plan for all of the provinces of Ontario, but it does have in it an opportunity and means whereby the public can be well informed of any particular disaster. And I might also just, I suppose it would be in the way of a supplementary answer. I'll give it before I get it.
Order. I think that's the answer. There hasn't been a final supplementary placed yet. Final supplementary? Final supplementary to the Solicitor General?
Mr. Speaker, since I often don't know what I'm going to ask myself, it's refreshing to have a minister who seems to know that before I do. But in any event, what I...
You got us in this problem, George. You guys got us.
I'd like to...
Final supplementary to the Solicitor General?
No, my final supplementary is to the Minister of Energy. That's possible? No, it's not.
No, it's not possible.
Okay, fine. I'll go back to the Solicitor General in that case. Perhaps the Minister can tell us then specifically whether there are plans, both specifically with respect to Pickering and with respect to Bruce, and can he tell us precisely what measures are in fact in place for alerting the public?
Minister?
As the member will know, we did a particular plan with regard to the Pickering potential disaster last year, a very active plan in which many thousands of people took part. And so that plan has been well in hand. In September of 1986, we have another plan for the Bruce generating station, which also will test the capacity of the province to respond to the emergency. And I would say that the plan in general does look out well for the safety of all the citizens of this province.
New question? The member for York South.
Mr. Speaker, I have, as I'm sure the Minister of Health has, and I'd like to, in the absence of the Premier, who has been playing apparently the lead role in this, I'd like to ask the Minister, if he's in a position to answer these questions, I'd like to ask the Minister with respect to the extra billing question. I am receiving daily, and I'm sure the Minister is as well, letters from people who are today being extra billed. I have one here from someone who's paying on behalf of their father, who's a resident of a nursing home in Sudbury, a request for a bill from a doctor. I'd like to ask the Minister, would he consider sitting down with the OMA and putting to the OMA the simple proposition that there should, as of today, be a moratorium on extra billing, and that patients in this province should not suffer as a result of the inability of the Government of Ontario to make up its own mind with respect to bringing in legislation on extra billing.
Mr. Speaker, I am in a position to answer that question, and I am in a position to tell this Parliament that, in fact, we have made up our mind on this particular issue and that extra billing will be ended. That is, Mr. Speaker, the position of this government. It has been, it will be, and we will carry through on that. With respect to the question at hand, any suggestions that any member has with respect to us moving ahead in discussions and negotiations with the OMA will be placed in front of our negotiating group. I will ask them if they will place this moratorium in effect, and look forward to their reply. I am also in a position to tell the members that we are at this stage hopeful of receiving a new set of written proposals from the OMA when we are able to sit down again in our next meeting, and I'm looking forward to those discussions continuing.
Supplementary?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask the Minister, he I'm sure would recognize that since the election of May the 2nd, when a majority of this legislature was elected on the principle that extra billing should not take place, patients in this province have been billed somewhere in excess of $40 million, and they are in fact being billed still at, as far as we know, at a rate of roughly $1 million a week. I wonder if the Minister can tell precisely what steps the government intends to take to ensure that delay will no longer be the friend of extra billing, but that in fact extra billing can in fact come to an end, because that is the commitment of this legislature, because we do think it's improper and something that should not be happening in the province.
Mr. Speaker, I can tell the members here that in fact the friend of this legislature and the friend of the public in Ontario is that we continue to discuss and negotiate this particular matter with the profession, that in fact we come up and resolve this particular question in the best method possible, and we come to grips with dealing with the situation here in Ontario. We will not delay any longer if we find that there is no progress being made. I can tell this legislature that in fact we have made progress, that when talks are going on and when new proposals are being expected, I think that we can gladly say that the public is being well served by working towards an amicable solution to this particular problem.
Final supplementary?
Well, I must say, Mr. Speaker, I would like to ask the Minister, apart from the bromide statement that he just delivered today, that may make him feel better, but I don't think it contributes at all to the state of health of this province with respect to the question of extra billing. I'd like to ask the Minister, how can he tell a patient who is at this very moment receiving an extra bill for $10, $20, $30, $50, $100, $150, $200, or $300, that in fact that need not happen and won't happen? What assurance can you give those patients? And why has it taken your government 10 months to end the delay and the frustration and the poor morale which is affecting the health care system of this province as a result of your dithering on this issue? Do you not realize that that's what's happening because of the delay?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I have to disagree with my friend from York South. In fact, there is no dithering. There has been action taken. We have moved to introduce the bill. We have, at one point, received indications that there would never be discussions at all between the government and the OMA. In fact, that has been overcome. We have had those discussions. We are having those discussions. We are putting together written proposals. We're expecting new proposals very shortly, I hope, from that group, and we will continue to deal with this particular problem in a very sensitive manner. For those patients who feel that they have been, that there are problems, I think that they ought to go directly to their physician. They can go to their physician, as they have been told, and they can come to me, and I will do my best as well to intercede for those people. But I can tell the honourable gentleman from York South that from my standpoint, we are moving on this issue in the most sensitive and most sensible manner possible for the people and the public of Ontario.
New question. The member for Nipissing.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to ask the Minister of Environment to share with the House any evidence that the Ministry of Environment has on the effectiveness and the environmental impacts of chemical versus biological insecticides.
Minister?
In terms of insecticides, you're talking about forestry and forestry. Of course, there is a divided opinion on this. There are those who represent Northern Ontario ridings in the northwest of Ontario who hold a certain point of view on these and feel that they can be more effective in certain instances than the BT. Those people made known their point of view, as did the people who were in favor of BT, at the open houses which were conducted by the Minister of Natural Resources. As the member is aware, the government has made a decision that we will use BT, as the Minister of Natural Resources has announced, to combat the problems that are confronted by those who are specifically interested in forestry products which have been assaulted by various pests. And so I think you will continue to have those in the industry who will indicate that they would prefer chemicals to be used, specific chemicals, and you'll have those who would prefer to see BT used, most of those people not within the industry itself. And I know when you consult with your members from northwestern Ontario that they might have certain views, and those from other areas of the province in your caucus may have other.
Seems like a very comprehensive answer. The supplementary, the member for Nipissing.
Was very comprehensive, Mr. Speaker, but I was interested in what the ministry thought. I know what everybody else thinks, and I realize there's divided opinion. I really am surprised that in view of the fact that now that chemical spraying has been identified as one of the major or at least very significant causes of toxic rain, that your ministry doesn't really have a viewpoint on this, that in fact you're relying on what some think and what some others think. Could I ask you, does your ministry, not others, do you agree with Errol Caldwell, Program Director for Chemical Control Agents of the Forest Pest Management Institute? He says, quote, "We've done quite a bit of work with BT at the Institute. Still, quote, we found BT as effective as chemical products." Do you agree with Errol Caldwell's statements?
Minister?
The member, I think, has now clarified his question so that I understand what he was getting at. The first question appeared to be something that was designed to elicit an answer perhaps that he was looking for, and I wanted to explain for him the two sides of that issue. However, since the member has asked a viewpoint on a specific product of BT, I believe that BT is a very effective product to use, and I think we have seen evidence of that in the past. Yes, it does require, of course, the insect to actually consume the BT before there is a death occurring with the insect. But they have been effective, particularly in the right weather conditions, as the member would know. And I would indicate to the member that I feel that BT is a very effective agent, and of course our government is using it this year.
New question, the member for Sudbury East.
I have a question to the Minister, my friend Russell Ramsey Rye. Arising out of a
We just thought we'd throw that name.
arising out of a memo dated May the 6th, 85 by Walter Melanesian.
I don't know what made me think
Statement
of
is, an existing G file of 18 months or more may for the purpose of expedition be placed directly to the on-call Cycle 99 without a file review by completing a Code 11 reported for submission to the manager. I don't know what it means. Could I ask the minister if this is in fact what it means? Does this really mean that once a firm is placed under a Code 99, it will never again be subject to regular inspections? That Code 99 files will only react to injuries or workplace refusals, and plants will not be visited upon to determine new procedures check on their accident, health, and safety programs. Indeed, isn't this a policy aimed at crisis management?
Minister?
Well, I don't know what Code 99 means either, and I'll be quite candid in saying that to my friend. But the member knows, Mr. Speaker, that various firms, depending on their accident frequency, depending upon the danger of the work in which they're involved, can be anywhere from a 3-month cycle, Mr. Speaker, to a 36-month cycle. And indeed, it is, to be quite candid with the legislature, with 200,000 firms in the province of Ontario, it is obvious that not every firm probably gets a visit even within that 36-month period. I can only say to my friend and through you, Mr. Speaker, to all the members of the legislature that in the last little while, this government has attempted and will continue to attempt to put more resources in the Occupational Health and Safety Division, both in the inspectorate for the preliminary inspections that are done by the industrial, the mining, and the construction branch, but also in the occupational health area, which is an area in which our knowledge has exploded, in which we need to have not only new experts but additional training. Those matters are no longer under active review. Additional hiring is taking place. Additional training is being put into place, and I hope that we can continue to visit not only the most dangerous workplaces of Ontario, but all workplaces just as often as we can. But it's a very difficult job given the 200,000 workplaces.
Supplementary.
Well, a supplementary, since the minister has indicated that some companies won't be inspected as frequently, I'd like to quote from another encyclical, if I might, just put out by
I hope it's a very brief quote.
Very brief quote. It says, for the purpose of this policy, inspections are defined as routine inspections to audit the internal responsibility system, and it says activities of division staff not considered routine inspection include a whole series. So that, in fact, what you've got happening...
Question?
I'm coming to the question, Mr. Speaker.
I hope so.
Well, if you would... I know you're trying to be helpful. I can tell you you're trying to be helpful.
Good.
Doesn't, in fact... Doesn't this new policy mean, the second one, that with your Code 99 policy, that's eliminating the cyclical inspections, and all of these that you list in this latest encyclical, that in fact there will be no inspections that don't occur without prior notice. That what in fact you have got now is intervention when companies advise you what's going on. If that ever...
Well, I know that my friend is on the... I know, Mr. Speaker, that my friend is on this kick of prior notification, and the suggestion being that is what is happening out there. And I only say through you, Mr. Speaker, to the member in the House, that we have put out a policy in terms of prior notification, which is as tight as possible in terms of ensuring that when the inspections take place, and thousands of inspections take place every year, that there will be no prior notification. Now, there may well be, and I'm sure my friend in the House and the members of the House in general would understand this, that there may have to be, in the tightest of circumstances, prior notification, for example, when testing is about to occur, because we want to be able to duplicate conditions in the plant as they are. We may disagree, Mr. Speaker. We may disagree, Mr. Speaker. We may disagree.
Order. With respect. Order. I've been timing this, and it's just taking a little too long, I believe. New question. The member for Leeds.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question. My question is for the Minister of Housing. Some 40% of new homes in Ontario are not completed on time. What steps does he plan to assist new home buyers in this regard?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, that question that the member raised is of concern to us, of course. Again, as my colleague just commented, that it is also part of the housing boom that is happening, and there's a concern of maybe getting enough laborers like bricklayers and what have you to complete those housing starts. The matter has been discussed with my colleague too, with the Minister of Consumers, and we are looking into the matter.
Supplementary?
We hear a lot of that, Mr. Speaker. We're looking into it. As way of supplementary, by way of supplementary. This situation in many municipalities, Mississauga, Brampton, and Ottawa, to name a few, has reached crisis proportions. And this minister has had the better part of a year to do something about it and has done nothing. Two future Oakville residents as examples. Mr. and Mrs. Dennis Noonan with one son have been waiting 14 months for their new home. Mr. and Mrs. Robert Rizzuto with two children have been waiting 10 months. Mr. Speaker, will the minister assure the House that he will try to get an appointment with his leader, or the Attorney General, to find out how to handle this important issue?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, the matter is not in the hands of the Attorney General or the leader, and as I expressed to the member that we are looking into the matter, as I also would like to state, Mr. Speaker, that it's a very complex matter. It's a matter of the builders have indicated to me the shortage of bricks and the shortage of getting adequate labor. It's a compounded problem, and we are looking in the matter.
New question? Order. New question, the member for Lakeshore.
Mr. Speaker, I have a question for the Attorney General. The speech from the throne promised that there would be assistance for groups and individuals seeking to intervene before administrative tribunals. And I'd like to ask the Attorney General when we might expect to see such legislation introduced and when we can assure groups who are participating in these expensive hearings that they are no longer going to have bake sales and membership drives in order to finance their participation.
Minister?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I thank the member for the question. Some ad hoc funding has been provided from time to time, and if there are any bake sales that are taking place, I'd be glad to hear about them so that we can see that funding is provided on that basis. But the speech did contain that reference. We are working on a policy, and when it has been examined by Cabinet, I will be delighted to let the honourable member know.
Supplementary?
Mr. Speaker, there is a very clear policy and some criteria for intervenor funding with which I'm sure the Attorney General is very familiar. And those are the criteria that were followed by the Mackenzie Valley Pipeline Inquiry in 1977. I wonder if the Attorney General could tell the House whether, as counsel for that inquiry, he had any difficulty with the principles and the policy by which intervenor funding, and whether he is drafting legislation based on those very important principles.
Minister?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the criteria I agree that commission followed were in every respect excellent. They were more appropriate perhaps for northern Canada than they are for the south, because as the honourable member will remember well, they required public interest groups which were different in origin to coalesce for the purposes of hearings, a process that might not be acceptable in Ontario. However, we're looking at those criteria and other criteria, and a policy will be announced in due course.
New question? The member for Sudbury.
Speaker, I have a question for the Minister of Housing. For the purposes of determining costs no longer borne, how will a tenant determine the financing costs of the landlord, and which of those costs were used in determining the rent increase?
Minister?
I want to remind the honourable member, Mr. Speaker, that the report from the tenants and landlords were submitted to me recently, and that issue was addressed, and I will comment on that as soon as we get a chance to assess the proposal that I put forth.
Well, supplementary?
Mr. Speaker, supplementary to the Minister of Housing. Minister, this report was described by your Premier as being a historic report, one that would be incorporated into the Bill 78, and you have made laudatory remarks about it. Perhaps you would share with this House what mechanisms will be put in place to easily facilitate a tenant's appeal of the Rental Advisory Board.
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, let me just comment on one part that my honourable member just... The historic part about it to begin with is that we were able to get the landlords and tenants sitting down and addressing the issue. Now, I know, Mr. Speaker, that the honourable member would not recognize that as historic, but we have, because, as I said before, there are tenants and landlords in this building industry for years who have never even met a Minister of Housing, and you had many in the past. Now, when the Premier made his comments, I presume it's from his reading. Now, we are, well, he has a right to make his comments. But, as I said, we are sitting down and assessing all the proposals before us, and then we will make our presentation. And you will have your time, my honourable friend, to make your comments in committees too.
New question, the member for Ottawa Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is also to the Minister of Housing. I'm not quite sure, Mr. Speaker, whether I should address the question to the Minister of Housing or to the Minister of Municipal Affairs, but I'll start with the Minister of Housing, who's been standing in this House and telling us for the last week or so to hold our breath because action's coming on the urgent problem of hemorrhaging of our precious affordable rental housing. Is it the Minister of Housing who will tell us the government's policy to prevent conversions by severance and by conversion to apartment hotels, and what will that policy be?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, I presume I'll take that question. Like many issues, Mr. Speaker, many neglected issues, this government would like to resolve those neglected issues immediately. I am also, my honourable friend, very mindful of the fact that there are people who are concerned, like tenants and prospective buyers, or that are wondering where they stand on this issue. Having said all that, Mr. Speaker, and I did that deliberately just so that my colleagues over there would understand where we're coming from, Mr. Speaker, or that I will be making an announcement very shortly to address all those issues that you raised.
Order. 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 I'll just wait until the members are finished talking amongst themselves. Order. 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 Final supplementary, the member for Ottawa Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I know the Minister will have talked to his colleague, the Minister of Municipal Affairs, who comes from the Ottawa area, and we know now from the press that the deal that's been made is that we're going to stop condominium conversions threatening high-rises in Toronto, and that's great. I just don't want to see those tenants in the Ottawa area, and I'm sure the Minister of Municipal Affairs will speak to the same issue with a great deal of urgency because of the thousands of units that we've lost from affordable rental housing. I don't want to see those tenants losing more units when we have to pay good money to provide them with alternative housing.
Minister?
If the question is there, that I would like to see them losing either, Mr. Speaker.
New question, the member for Cambridge.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question today is for the Solicitor General. There has been, Mr. Solicitor, a large pile of debris sitting on both sides of Highway 401, the westbound lane, at a kilometer marker number 305. It's in the general area of Highway 6. It's in the westbound lane of 401, which I understand to be the contents of an American semi-trailer from Ohio, which was involved in a multi-vehicle accident back on February the 7th. Would the solicitor be kind enough to tell us why nearly 3 full months after that accident, this debris, which I am told is aluminum chloride, is still sitting along Highway 401, and the OPP to this date has not been successful in persuading the American insurance broker or agents to have that pile cleaned up?
That should be environment.
Minister?
Mr. Chairman, not to be flippant, but I was always going to ask the member to tell me why he thought it was the responsibility of the Solicitor General to clear up something along the roadside of the highways 401, either a matter that might be more closely directed to the Ministry of Highways or also to Environment. But I thought perhaps also it might have been the remnants of the parkway that was demolished there just a short while ago, but I was going to say that I know that it was well collected by the Ministry of Highways. I have no indication as to why they have not succeeded. Again, while I consider it outside the realm of my ministry, I'll attempt to get an answer for the member.
Well, Mr. Speaker, supplementary.
The minister said it's outside the realm of his ministry. I understood the question to say why has the OPP not been successful? So under those circumstances, I will allow you to ask a supplementary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm certainly pleased that you were listening to my question. Mr. Minister, Mr. Solicitor, nearly 3 months have gone past. It is the OPP that is involved. There is mismanagement between the OPP, the Solicitor General, that is, the Environment, and also the MTC. None of those people have taken responsibility to have this mess cleaned up. I want to know why this industrial byproduct is allowed to remain alongside of the road for 3 full months.
Minister?
I'm happy to take it under advisement and find an answer from whichever ministry bears the responsibility and provide it as soon as possible.
New question. The member for Sault Ste. Marie.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I have a question for the Minister of Labor about Algoma Steel's new announcement this week that they will be shutting down their seamless tube mill in May, resulting in an additional 350 jobs being lost for an indefinite period on top of the 1,500 jobs which we discussed at length on Monday. In this case, workers with up to 29 years seniority dating back to the startup of the mill in 1957 are being laid off. Have you investigated the actions being taken by Algoma Steel? What specifically is your ministry doing to protect the workers at Algoma? And why have you not yet contacted union officials in regard to this serious matter?
Minister? Well, I just want to advise the honourable member that that this minister and my officials in my ministry and all of the cabinet and members of the government take these problems at Algoma and indeed the number of problems, a whole variety of problems in the north with a great deal of seriousness and concern, and we're looking for answers not only in the short term but the long term. Let me tell the honourable member I met with John McNamara, the chairman of Algoma, yesterday. We had a substantive discussion on the announcement on Monday of the latest indefinite layoff. I want to also advise the honourable member that over the noon hour today, myself and my colleague, the Minister of Industry, met with Leo Gerard, the Director of District 6, and local officials of Algoma, of the Steelworkers Union in terms of Algoma, explored with them in a preliminary way the requests that they've made from the company for details on the need for these reductions, and indicated to the union that we're prepared to help bring the parties together to make sure that the union has is given the availability to find out all they need to know as to why these drastic cutbacks are necessary.
Supplementary.
In terms of specific action you could be involved in, you must be concerned about your ministry's ineffectiveness in protecting workers from massive layoffs, and the fact that less than 5% of layoffs ever result in severance pay compensation to workers, for example. As you know, steel plant workers have recall rights preventing them from collecting severance pay, and in the case of tenure employees, those recall rights are permanent, so they would never be eligible for severance pay. Will the minister immediately introduce amendments to the Ontario labor legislation to ensure that every laid-off worker who exhausts unemployment insurance benefits will automatically become eligible for severance pay without affecting the recall rights?
Minister?
Well, let me indicate to my friend that I can't give him an assurance that we will be that I'll immediately introduce amendments to the Employment Standards Act, though we are looking, as the honourable member knows, at the whole issue of severance pay. But let me share with my friend and with the House
my concern about the usefulness of introducing these amendments. The honourable member knows, Mr. Speaker, that severance pay, when paid, along with pension benefits when paid, are going to be deducted dollar for dollar in terms of UI payments. Now, I don't know, and members of this government don't know of any situation that is quite as ridiculous as this. And I might suggest to, through you, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member, and indeed to all members of the House, that it is high time that Mr. Mulrooney and Mr. Wilson got off their high horse and agree with Mr. Kelleher and apparently most of the members of the Tory cabinet, most of the members of the Tory caucus, and rolled back and reversed this absolutely ridiculous decision.
Here, here.
New question, the member for Stormont, Dundas, Glengarry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Through you, Mr. Speaker, to the Minister of Agriculture and Food. Mr. Minister, have you contacted the St. Albert Cheese Factory recently in Russell County in order to review their particular problem with quota?
Minister?
Well, we certainly had a discussion with my staff about you're talking about the St. Albert Cheese Factory? Yes, when that was first brought to my attention, well, I guess it was first brought to the Premier's attention, and through the Premier, I had a meeting with my staff, and my staff are looking into their problems, and what we would hope to do is call in the various organizations responsible for the milk marketing program in this province to see if there is indeed something we can do about these smaller independent cheese factories that maintain they do not have sufficient quota in order to manufacture, well, not only cheddar cheese, but specialty cheese as well. We are looking into it.
Supplementary?
Supplementary to the same minister, Mr. Speaker. As you well know, the St. Albert Cheese Factory is one of the very few farmer-owned milk processing plants in Ontario. And now that you do have, and you seem to be well in tune with what the Premier said, now that you have his blessing, when do you expect to go to St. Albert and tell them? Because we are running into the lush time of the year when milk production generally goes up. They need to know now. When will you tell them, and how much do you expect to be able to tell them their quota increase will be?
Minister?
Well, I think the member knows full well that I have absolutely no jurisdiction over the allotment of quota. That is done by the Ontario Milk Marketing Board. And I simply do not dictate to the Milk Marketing Board what they are going to do regarding quota for individual plants. But I did tell you that what we intend to do is to meet with the Ontario Milk Marketing Board and the Dairy Commission to see if indeed something different can be done regarding quotas for these smaller independent cheese factories. But I have no jurisdiction over allotment of quotas, none whatsoever.
New question, the member for Port Arthur.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a new question for the Minister of Labour. If the Minister of Education would sit down and let me have a clear shot at him. In view of the largest layoffs since 1983 in January and February of this year of 2,202 and 1,651 respectively for Ontario as a whole, and in view of the fact that the unemployment rate in Northern Ontario is 50% higher than that for Ontario as a whole, is the Minister aware that with the closure of the Great Lakes Forest Products Wafer Board plant in Thunder Bay tomorrow, that is the beginning of another 3,650 layoffs in Northern Ontario, in Thunder Bay, Terrace Bay, Wawa, and Sault Ste. Marie.
Minister,
in view of that, can I ask the Minister what mechanisms he has put in...
The question's been asked. Minister?
Well, yes, I am aware of the ever-expanding numbers of layoffs, particularly, Mr. Speaker, in Northern Ontario. The matters are of great concern to the government, not just this minister, but all members of the government, and we are seeking ways and means of addressing them. But the solution's not as simple as the problem, as the honourable member knows.
Supplementary.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Does the Minister not recall saying in March the 11th, 1982, in response to the Ford engine plant layoffs in his part of the province, quote, "We must put mechanisms in place that can lead to an avoidance of shutdowns where management, labor, the community, and the government can perhaps find a way to avoid these shutdowns and these layoffs which are so crippling to the workers." Can you tell me, as minister, now that you've had power and authority for 10 months, what mechanisms you have put in place to avoid these layoffs to workers that are so crippling?
Minister.
Well, the issues of plant shutdowns, the issues of closures, and indeed justification and notice are under intensive and full review, particularly as we might look for short-term solutions, as we might look for short-term solutions, Mr. Speaker, which would help Northern Ontario. I share the frustration of my friend. We are looking for solutions to a very complex problems. I haven't changed my view that I expressed back in 1982, putting mechanisms in place. But I might share with the honourable member, and I repeat, I think, what I suggested to him the other day in answer to a previous question. I suggest to my friend and to my friend from Sudbury East that one of the things we can do in the short term is try to encourage as much as possible both management and labor to come to government to share their problems and let government work with them at a very early stage in trying to solve those problems.
Order. Order. New question, the member for Burlington South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is for the Minister of Colleges and Universities. The Ontario Public Service Internship Program is designed to provide experience training in all government ministries to recent post-secondary graduates for civil service positions. I understand from McMaster University and Carleton University that not all of these positions were posted to all colleges and universities throughout our province. And in fact, ministries and the ministers made selective invitations to specific universities and colleges. Could the minister tell us why, in the interest of fairness to all students in this province, why he was not able to ensure that each and every community college and university received all the postings from all ministries so that students had a fair chance to apply?
Minister?
Well, Mr. Speaker, he raises an interesting question. I had not been aware that these postings were not made available to all colleges and universities, and certainly there was no selection on my part, nor none that I am aware of on my ministry's part. But I would be delighted to take the question under advisement, look into it, and find out. Certainly our duty and obligation is to deal fairly and equitably with every student, right from Thunder Bay to Kingston to Windsor. And I'll have a better and more accurate response for my friend in the very near future.
By way of supplementary then, Mr. Speaker, it's unfortunate that you've just learned about it because several of these positions this competition will be closing today, tomorrow, and Friday. And therefore, taking it under advisement may not be a sufficient resolution to the many students who would like to apply, who are currently unable to. Would you give us your assurances today that you will extend these closing dates for at least a 2-week period and circulate to each member in this House the lists of uncompleted positions available in all the ministries so that all students in the province will have an opportunity to apply fairly and equitably for these positions?
Minister?
No, Mr. Speaker, I'm not in a position at this point to give the member and the House assurances of that sort. I can tell the member that I will have my staff look into it on an emergency basis, and if there has been unfairness to any part of this province, then we will take the appropriate remedial measures. But I hope that the member is not expecting that on the basis of the matter that he raises now, that I'm going to assure the House and the public that I will postpone for 2 weeks a process that has been ongoing for some time.
New question, the member for Hamilton West.
Mr. Speaker, through you to the Minister of Education. The Minister of Education, sir, has stated that he is not prepared to extend funding to private schools. In a recent address, his newly appointed, yet to take office, Deputy Minister Dr. Shapiro, stated that if the ministry can provide $65 million for computers, it can spend $75 million for private schools. The minister also has hailed the court decision with respect to the constitutionality of separate school funding as the foundation of a major policy initiative in that direction. The deputy minister-to-be has stated categorically that in his view that decision is incorrect.
Is your
and
question,
it
does
is
the
wrong.
minister
Would the
agree?
minister please comment upon these apparently serious divergences between himself and his deputy-to-be on major policy questions in education?
Through you,
asked-
Mr.
I
Speaker,
haven't
to
asked
my
for
friend from
supplementary
Hamilton
yet.
West, let me say that I'm quite aware and was at the time of Dr. Shapiro's appointment as Deputy Minister effective July the 1st, 1986. What outstanding work he had performed on behalf of the province in his role as a solo commissioner on independent and private schools. I've made it very clear, what government policy is in this regard. This government intends to complete via Bill 30 the public funding of the last part of the separate school system in this province, and thereby does not intend to fund private schools. We have, of course, circulated Dr. Shapiro's outstanding work in this connection for public comment, but government policy is as I have stated, and I would not want the honourable member to be under any misapprehension about that.
Supplementary?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the question of Dr. Shapiro's ability is beyond dispute, but I would submit to the minister that on a fundamental question such as the constitutionality of a major development that that ministry is promoting, for an ADM, for a deputy minister to be publicly asserting that in fact is a wrong decision, incorrect decision, is going to compound problems for him the greater that man's ability is.
Does the minister
and I just
agree?
wonder if he should take so calmly. Can he tell us, for example, if it's perhaps in his interest to sow confusion? Deputy minister says and minister says.
Order! Minister?
Mr. Speaker, let me say again that when the appointment of Dr. Shapiro was made some weeks ago by Premier Peterson, we made it very clear that he was bringing a very outstanding reputation to his new responsibility. But on the position of the funding of private schools, I have made it very clear what the intention of this government is. And let me just say, Mr. Speaker, that today, for example, my colleague, the government leader in the House, has indicated that Donald C. MacDonald will be the new chairman of the Election Expenses Commission. Donald MacDonald has served the New Democratic Party and the CCF before with great distinction. He will bring, but as of May 1st, Mr. Speaker, Donald C. MacDonald will assume new public responsibilities that I expect he will discharge with fairness and balance.
Order! New question. The member for Scarborough Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have a question for the Minister of Education. I would like to know, Mr. Minister, how you explain the absolute contradiction of your position when on July 4th you quoted in this House, the fourth principle in this legislation is that there is to be no unemployment as a direct result of a policy regarding full funding. No teacher or other employee will lose his job as a result of the policy of full funding. With respect to your new amendments, in which a designated teacher, after 2 years of training, can be terminated by a Roman Catholic school board.
Mr. Speaker, there is no contradiction, but there is a confusion in the mind of my honourable friend from Scarborough Centre, and let me try to deal with that confusion, Mr. Speaker, because I do not like to see my distinguished friend, the spokesman for the official opposition on matters of education, so confused. What we have done in the amendments is to broaden the basis of the protection being afforded public school teachers who will find themselves as a result of extension in the separate school system. We have done so, Mr. Speaker, because my honourable friend from Scarborough Centre and more especially my friend from Hamilton West have said it would be a very good idea to provide in the legislation a grounds of conscience on which an individual might object. And, Mr. Speaker, I want to make it very clear that the practice of the first year and a half has been that no teacher or public school employee has lost his or her job as a result of extension. That is the government's view and commitment, and it will be fully discharged, quite apart from the confusion of the honourable member.
No confusion now.
Time for oral questions has expired.